Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving straight in to how a single, seemingly simple service event in the field absolutely must be documented, statistically analyzed, and then used to literally fuel your entire quality management system. We're looking at two specific clauses of 21 CFR Part 820 that, well, honestly, they're often totally undervalued, yet they show up constantly in audit citations. I'm talking about servicing under Section 820.200 and statistical techniques under 820.250. We're going to break down exactly how you capture that field data and transform it from just a dusty paper record into a proactive powerhouse for your organization.
All right, let's kick things off with a practical scenario. Picture this. A field tech is out on site replacing a failing valve on a deployed medical device. They swap the part out, tighten a few screws, close up the machine, and head out. On the surface, it looks like standard routine maintenance, right? Just a quick fix to keep the customer happy. But look at it through the eyes of the FDA. Is it just routine? Or did that tech just pull a major regulatory trigger? Because I'll tell you right now, if you treat this as just a simple repair job, you might be walking blindfolded right into a massive compliance trap.
And here is exactly why. Under 220 CFR 820-200, if you specify servicing for your device, you are legally mandated to have documented procedures. But listen, it goes way beyond just handing your techs an instruction manual. The regulation demands that you treat every single resulting service report as critical quality data. You've got to perform the service, verify the device actually meets specifications, and generate a totally unique service report for each event. These are not just receipts for your customer, they're a strictly regulated activity that acts as a real-time pulse check on how your device is performing in the real world. Section 1. Documenting the service event. The anatomy of a perfect record. So what does that perfect record look like? Well, you can't just scribble fixed valve on a clipboard. You need mandatory specific content for every single record to make sure literally no detail is lost. We're talking the exact name, identifying marks, and control number of the device. You need the exact date the service happened and exactly who performed it. But here is the absolutely crucial part. You have to document the actual service performed, any tests and inspections you made afterward, and the clear-cut results of those tests. That's what actually proves the device was returned to a safe, functional state. Section 2. The MDR escalation trigger. Crossing the compliance threshold.
There's a very clear three-step escalation pathway we need to look at here. Step 1, the service event actually happens, and your field tech records the issue and the repairs perfectly, just like we talked about. But Step 2, this is the hurdle where so many organizations trip up, the evaluation. You've got to review that record and ask yourself, does this indicate a potential medical device reporting, or MDR event? Like, did the device malfunction in a way that could have caused harm? If the answer is yes, boom, we hit Step 3. That event is flagged, and it automatically triggers an entry right into your formal complaint file. I really want to emphasize this direct mandate from the source material because it's a big one. It says, service reports that imply an MDR-eligible event become complaints automatically. Automatically. That means they're handled right away under Section 820.198. There is zero gray area here. Missing this automatic trigger is a massive compliance risk. Why? Because to an auditor, it looks like you're actively ignoring adverse field events just because the tech managed to fix the machine on site. Section 3. Statistical analysis of servicing. Making sense of the data mountain. Okay, once your techs generate these highly detailed records, you can't just file them away. If we compare some common audit risk flags against their required mitigations, you'll see that using arbitrary rules is basically an audit trap. Take, for example, relying on n equals 5, c equals 0, with absolutely no statistical basis. As the source material bluntly puts it, a sampling plan you can't defend statistically is not a plan, it's a ritual. Other major audit flags, things like failing to review service reports for MDRs in the first place, or setting up control charts and then just abandoning them, the mitigations are crystal clear. You must have a written rationale for your sampling plan, and reviewing those service records for MDRs has to be a documented standing procedure. To build that solid defensible rationale, manufacturers have to establish valid statistical techniques. Your toolset includes what I like to call the quiet giants of quality. First up, valid sampling plans. These have to be scaled to lot size and defect rate, kind of like what you'd find in the common ANSI ASQ Z14 standard. Next is process capability, where you're tracking metrics like CPK and PPK. And finally, real-time control charts, tracking continuous data or proportions of defective units. When an out-of-control signal pops up on one of these charts, the action is simple. Stop, investigate, and correct it before you produce anything else. For instance, when we speak the quantitative language of process capability, tracking short-term capability, or CPK, typically aims for a target of 1.33 or 1.67 if we're dealing with critical specifications. Basically, CPK measures how centered and spread your process is relative to its spec limits. Now, if you're also tracking long-term performance, known as PPK, you're looking at real-world variation over time. If your PPK starts diverging from your CPK, well, that is a massive red flag signaling your process is drifting, and tracking this drift but doing absolutely nothing about it? That is exactly how companies end up getting cited.
Section 4. Closing the feedback loop. Fueling the QMS learning engine. You've got to actively trend specific data points coming in from the field. It is definitely not enough to just collect the records. You have to step back and look at the big picture. You should be trending service call volumes. Are they suddenly spiking? You also need to track the mean time to repair. Is it taking your technicians longer and longer to fix a specific issue? And most importantly, you need to track the specific failure modes being reported by those techs, right alongside any of those statistical process control out-of-control signals we just talked about. This is raw, incredibly valuable intelligence coming directly from the front lines of your product's lifecycle. So where does all this intelligence actually go? As the source beautifully puts it, this data doesn't just sit up in the attic gathering dust, it acts as a direct input to trigger corrective and preventative actions, or CAPAs, the very second specific thresholds are breached. It must become a standing item in your executive management reviews. It feeds straight into your risk file reviews. It updates your supplier defect scorecards, and it honestly forms the backbone of your annual product quality review. Servicing data and statistics really are the high-octane fuel for the learning engine of your entire quality management system. To wrap up this explainer, let's do a quick knowledge check straight from the source. A service report representing a potentially reportable event must be A. Archived for audit only, B. Treated as a complaint under Section 82198, C. Sent to the supplier, or D. Discussed in management review only. Take a second and think back to the escalation trigger we walked through earlier.
If you guessed B, you are absolutely spot on. Service reports that reflect MDR-eligible events become complaints automatically. And that really drives home our ultimate takeaway today. Where servicing is required, detailed procedures and exact records are non-negotiable. Your statistical plans have to have a written, highly defensible rationale, and everything has to connect right back into your system. Properly documented and analyzed servicing data really is the lifeblood of a proactive, compliant QMS. So I'll leave you with this one thought. Are your field service reports driving a powerful feedback loop of continuous improvement right now? Or are they just gathering dust in an audit trap attic? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.